It is 5 o'clock. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting of the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Please join me in pledging allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You all may be seated. We will start off with a board workshop, and Mr. Matthew Tepper is here. He's going to talk to us about delinquent tax collection report. Hi, welcome back.
Always a pleasure to be here. President, Dr. Kincannon, the rest of the board. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Matthew Tepper, and I'm one of the shareholders with McCreary, Veselka, Bragg, and Allen, and we are your delinquent tax attorneys. Normally, Mr. Harvey Allen would be the one standing up here giving you all the report today. He had a medical procedure earlier in the day, and so he has sent me in his stead. And I guess the main thing I can tell you is Mr. Allen wouldn't have trusted me to come here and give you all the report today if it wasn't that it's a really good report. And so he felt that he could trust me to give it. When you look at delinquent tax collections, there's really three different numbers that I think are most relevant to the school board. The first one is the total revenue from tax collections in a given year. If you can go back up to page 1. And what that means is any given calendar year or academic year that you've got, there is a certain amount of property taxes that you are supposed to collect. If everybody just paid 100% of their current year taxes on time, there was no delinquents, no penalties, no interest, no prior year's taxes, what number would you get? And for 2017, what the Belton ISD ended up collecting was 100.22% of those taxes. And I know y'all are looking at me thinking, look, we're educators. We can do math. How do you possibly get above 100%? And the way that you get above 100% is 1, the penalties and the interest that people pay, and 2, prior year delinquents that were collected in this particular fiscal year. And actually, for each one of the last 5 years, we have collected over 100% of your levy in the given year. And why that number is important is that means that when you all set your budget and you plan on having a certain amount of money coming in from property tax collections, you're going ahead and you are getting that money in fact, this year, 0.22% more than what you anticipated getting in. The second number, which is on the top of page 2 of the handout that's in your packet, is your total collection of tax levies to date. And what we do to look at that number is we look at each one of the 5 previous fiscal years for Belton ISD, and we look at where we are today, how much of that tax have we collected. And what you can see is that for the 2013 taxes, which have now been delinquent for just around 5 years, 99.78% of those taxes have been collected. Now, the lion's share of those taxes were collected by the Tax Appraisal District of Bell County, people just mailing in their payments or making them before they went delinquent. But the reason that that chart and the numbers that are shown up on the screen are important is this lets you know that virtually every single person who owes taxes to the Belton ISD is ultimately paying those taxes. And so the first number we talk about, you had enough cash flow in the last fiscal year, and what this chart talks about is that ultimately everybody is having to pay. That difference, that 0.22% that hasn't come in yet, That's a variety of different types of properties. Some of them are properties that are in bankruptcy. We may ultimately collect it from the bankruptcy court. Some of it is in deferral. We will ultimately collect it whenever the deferral comes out. Some of it is business personal property for a defunct out of business or a manufactured home that disintegrated before we were able to get to it and get the tax collected on it. So you will never get it up to 100%, but you're going to get awful darn close. And you can see within the first 5 years, we have gotten very, very close. And then the third number that I think is important, which is the delinquent tax collections shown on the bottom of the screen. And that is the actual percent of taxes that were turned over to MVBA on July 1 of a given year and how many of those taxes we've collected. And again, if you look at the 2013 taxes, we've had those for 54 months. We've collected 88.74% of those taxes. That's the same 0.22% of that levy that's outstanding. The 2016 taxes, which we've only had for 18 months, we've already collected just under 75% of those taxes. And the 2017 taxes that we've only had for 6 months, we've already collected half of those that were turned over to us. Some of the taxes get collected quickly, some of them take a little bit more. This doesn't just happen. During the last year, we sent out over 27,000 different notices. We filed over 200 suits on over 250 pieces of property. We took judgment on just under 200 of them, and we posted 140 of them for sale, ultimately selling 97 of those properties. Everybody's got their own different stress level. Most people pay when the bill comes out. Some people pay when they get a nasty notice from a law firm. Some people don't pay until they actually get served with a lawsuit. And some people show up at 9:30 on the first Tuesday of the month and say, no, 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 don't go ahead and sell my property. I've got the money to pay for it. But we are diligently working to make sure that the Belton ISD gets all the money to which y'all are entitled. If there's any questions from the board, I can entertain those. Otherwise, thank you very much. It's a real honor to continue representing you all. Yes, sir.
With the fees or the taxes that you collect, does that typically include fees?
Yes.
Attorney fees and costs?
It does. The way that we get paid is there's actually a penalty that is added to the delinquent tax to cover our fee. And so the Belton ISD doesn't spend any money to pay our law firm to do the work for you all. It is the delinquent taxpayers who make our work necessary who end up covering that entire cost. So that's not a line item anywhere in your budget. It's an added-on penalty that the tax code puts on there.
Well, thank you for that report. Thank you for your diligence and hard work in getting those numbers a little higher each time. We greatly appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we will have a 2017 bond project update from O'Connell Robertson. It's Jared McGee. Hello, how are y'all?
Thank you all for the time again. So once again, we're going to talk about both the Belton Elementary School, Charter Oak, and the Lake Belton High School. Charter Oak Elementary School is getting to the very end of its wire. Right now, we have about a month, a little over a month and a half as the final finishes are going in to get this project to completion. So the last time we kind of came up here and talked about it, I showed you these photos where we had the classrooms with the ceiling grids installed, the feature wall, the painting of the structure in the gymnasium, and then as we looked at the overall exterior of the building, that all the front masonry had been completed. You can see in these areas here, which is still really light, they hadn't actually done the metal panel yet on the facade of the building, and they hadn't done any of this flat work coming around here, pouring in the sidewalks that connect everything. So in the last month, as you can see on these photos here, the front entrance, they have all of the flat work installed. In the aerial views here, you can see in the parking lots that they got all the flat work in the aisles and the islands already put in place. And actually, the photo on the left here, I was the day they had just finished pouring that. And as I tried to walk into the normal door that we all go into, couldn't get into it, so I had to walk around the school. And as going around the school, as we go to the other, just amazed at the interior finishes that are coming out. So these 4 photos are basically the ceiling grids being installed, the lighting going in, and getting prepped to drop in all those ceiling tiles and have all the finishes done. So the north side of the building that has the 4th and 5th grade wing is the most complete right now. They've got casework installed, they've got the concrete floors have been polished, and they've moved their way down basically to the main entrance and have finishing out now the library onto the pre-K and 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade wings. All the bathrooms have been tiled, we've got partitions up, the lighting, as you saw, is up. It is pretty much a complete building now, just with some minor things here and there as they finish up. And if I go back, oops. And of course, these photos being a little small, one of the other things that they've also done in this last month is they installed all the playgrounds on the outside, which is it was a great shock when walking with Dr. Cannon one day, and we saw those out there, just like looking at the door at the end of the wing. Oh, there's your playground already been installed. So they've made a lot of progress on this project, and we're getting down to the very end of it. And it's going to be an amazing project. Can't wait for you all to go out there and see it sometime.
So as we look out, as Kurt indicated, yep, on Friday we'll get to go walk and you'll get to experience it. But really, we're targeting substantial completion, which means the owner will have beneficial use of the facility at the end of March. So between now and then, we're going to be working to punch out the building, make sure every little detail's right, make sure they got everything, work with the district staff as well to get out there. And that will set the punch list and substantial completion, and then move into final completion. We'll wrap it up. We'll be bringing it to the board probably in May is our thought. But that really sets everything up well for furniture to be moved in, teachers, administrators to start over the summer rather than the day before school starts, and then ultimately be ready for middle of August for that first day of school. So we're excited.
Are there any questions on this one?
We're just excited to see the progress and can hardly wait to take that tour on Friday. It's going to be great.
So on to the small project, Lake Belton High School. So last time we came out here and talked about it, some of the key features that I pointed out was we had the structure on the 2nd floor had been erected. Over in the Performing Arts and Gymnasium, they had begun the Performing Arts Center structure being installed. We had in Building L down here, we had in the 1st floor, they had already put in some of the walls, door frames, had the MEP roughing going in along with the electrical. And obviously we had the gymnasium with the roof on it already. So within the last month, the easiest way is to look at is actually looking at the aerial photos here, is that in the Performing Arts Center, they completed the structure for the Performing Arts Center. They've got the roofing decking on there. All the building parts that wrap around it, they've got the roofing on there and have started with the framing of the exterior walls, putting up the sheathing, have actually started the waterproofing and are getting ready to start installing some of the brick on that side of the building, which is a nice feature. And then on the other side of the building in the classroom wings, they completed the base roof on the wing L here, have all the walls basically in, and have started putting the metal deck on the main axial corridor along with the 2nd floor here. So down in these, and I apologize for the pincushion photos, I have a 360 camera that I take on site, so I get lots of photos. And so I started trying to pull some of those out because it's kind of interesting to see the building from my perspective sometimes as you walk through it. But these two photos here are actually just walking through the Performing Arts Center with all the structure around it. And it is, as the contractor said, it's quite amazing. He can't wait for some of our other folks from our office to come out there and see it because of the amount of steel that's in there, the different catwalks in the Performing Arts Center having been already erected, and the different pieces that all go together along with the orchestra pit create for quite an interesting scene to see out there. And then this, again, just walking through the gymnasium. They've got the lockers, rooms framed on the one side with structural steel, getting ready to put the decking on that area. So then on the classroom wing, if we look up at the first photo up here, so all the 1st floor has been framed. We have all the exterior sheathing on it. They have all the exterior walls on the 2nd floor already with the roofing on the top. And they're beginning to move all of their trades, MEP, upstairs. They're starting to hang some of the hangers for the mechanical duct work, electrical work. So as they're progressing, they're getting one piece finished on both the 1st and 2nd floor, and then they're transitioning to the next phase. On the bottom two photos, just out in the middle of the site, kind of giving you a bird's eye view of how far those two pieces are apart, is on, I'm standing at the, basically the connection between the two above where the cafeteria is, and you can see back here where the gymnasium and the Performing Arts Center, and then turning around, you've got the 2nd floor classroom wing on the other side. In the meantime, they've got the curbs going around the track already installed on the inside. They've got the building pads poured for baseball, softball, getting ready for some of the dugouts to be put in. And within the next month, they're anticipating by, I think, March 1st to the 5th, they will have all concrete poured on site, which is a big milestone because we're going to have close to 400 and some thousand square feet of concrete that's been poured on this site.
So very similar on this one of big picture perspective, we're about a third of the way through in time and about a third of the way through the cost as well as we're reviewing that. So Kurt's on site, making sure they're installing everything correctly, reviewing the pay apps and getting those into the contractor and making sure that we're all on top of it as we move here towards the finish line in a little more than a year. So about a year and a half. So,
Coming fast.
yes.
Are there any questions?
So for our tour on Friday, do you recommend that we wear like closed-toe shoes, boots?
Yep, no sandals,
Oh,
closed-toe
okay.
shoes.
Okay.
Not suggested, it's
Steel-toe
required.
boots, have those on site.
And don't worry about your hair because you'll get to put a hard hat on.
Oh, yeah, that's
projects.
Sounds fit really well.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Are we meeting here for that? Or are we,
Good question. We're meeting at the site. We will have we'll have a bus out at Lake Belton High School because we want to drive you around the site so you can see the fields. You probably don't want to hike all the 80 acres, but we will do some walking as well and get out at some strategic locations so you can get a feel inside of some of the spaces.
So meet at Charter Oak in the morning and
Meet
then
at Charter Oak, and then we'll ride over to Lake Belton High School. And you have a schedule? Everyone's good with their schedule?
we all have a different schedule.
it's all
Yes, we all have a different schedule, so follow your schedule, and we'll just meet you there at the front door, or the construction trailer, actually, at Lake Belton High School. You want to speak to the topping out event at Lake Belton High School,
Sure.
Jared?
So as we go through any of the projects, there's always great milestones from the groundbreaking at the beginning, ribbon cutting at the end, but very traditional is the last piece of steel that goes up. Often it gets celebrated of going up, maybe even a Christmas tree will appear on it. And then that'll happen, it's April 26th. And so we've started working with Bartlett Cock to organize that. So I'm hearing around 400 people will be attended between district employees, but it's also a chance to celebrate for the construction team. So all of their workers will be invited as well to be able to celebrate. So they've got a little path, they've got a little selfie point as well that they've identified. So you can take a nice little shot and post it on Twitter and all that fun stuff and kind of go from there. So
we probably won't celebrate with a fire on the roof.
no, we try and prevent those as much as possible.
Yeah, Elizabeth
Yeah.
is working with the Bartlett Cock on the topping out ceremony, and we do expect to have a time for the community to come out and sign the beam. And then we will have a lunch with the workers. So it really is their celebration that we're joining in on. And I can't find Elizabeth. I'm looking. There she is. It's my understanding we have about 200 workers. Yeah, that we're joining with for lunch to celebrate and place the beam. So it should be an exciting time. Yeah. First time that I know of we've done anything like that in Belton ISD.
Pretty
So
exciting.
it's very cool.
How are we doing on the schedule?
Doing good on both schedules. So both contractors have been working around the rain and substantial completion. So Cloud is still on target, still March 30th of this year. And then right now, we're working with Bartlett Cock that had identified in July of next year. And so they're tracking rain days along the way, still working towards that date as well. So the great thing is both of them are out of the ground, so they can now be working in the building, as long as you can walk to it.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you all very much for that update.
Absolutely, thank y'all.
See you Friday. All right, next up, we have Miss Jennifer Ritter. We're always glad to have her here. She's going to talk to us about the 2017 bond program update.
Thank y'all. Mine's not as exciting as these guys, unfortunately, but this is how we got there, is through the bond issuance process itself. I'll also mention that Glenn Opal, your bond attorney, is here, and we can have him talk about the order momentarily. But let me go through the basics of what the action is tonight. So as a reminder, in 2017, we asked the voters to approve $149.7 million in bonds. You've issued 130 million of that, which is obviously going to the projects that you just heard about. And given that you're on schedule to have completion within a year to a year and a half, it's time to come back and issue the remaining 19.7 million to close out that bond program. So that's why we're here tonight, is to take action to move forward with that bond sale for the remaining authorization from those 2017 bond, or 2017 election, I should say. So back in 2017, the voters were actually told a tax increase would be up to 18.69 cents. As usual, you were able to come in and sort of be on the lucky side of a lot of those projections being a little bit too conservative, thankfully, to be able to lower it to just 16.3 cents. So it's kind of beneficial, and we hope to be able to continue with this next bond program here to continue that. The new issuance itself that we're talking about, that 19.7, will not increase the tax rate as we're projecting currently. It'll actually lead to a slight decrease. So that's probably positive news to start out with. I'm going to skip over that and come back to it. It's a little bit difficult for people to see. So our goal here with the bond sale, number one, is obviously to let you finish the bond program and complete all the projects that you told the voters that you were going to build. And then secondly, from our perspective as your financial advisors, to lock in the lowest interest rate or the lowest cost of finance. We are, in that vein, suggesting this time or recommending this time that we do what's called a competitive bond sale. So in the past, we've done negotiated bond sales where we actually select the underwriter, and the underwriter, I know there's a lot of new faces, at least to me as well, on the bond sale side. I know you're not new board members, but new on the bond sales. We've typically done a negotiated sale, and what that means is that we select the underwriter in advance. The underwriter is the investment bank that buys the bonds from Belton ISD and sells them out to investors in the secondary market. So we've gone the negotiated route because we know we have a buyer. And then because the structure on that tax rate that we're talking about has been so tight that we want to make sure we can restructure every maturity to hit the target of tax rate that we've told the voters. And the only way to do that in the past has essentially been to have the underwriter selected and to work with them all day on the day of sale to hit those tax rate targets. Well, in this case, there's another method called a competitive sale, sort of like eBay for bond sales, where we're going to say a day of sale, a time, and then any underwriter across the country who's interested in purchasing Belton ISD's bonds will bid. Whoever has the lowest interest rate will win. So you can't pick who's going to buy it, but whoever has the lowest interest rate will win. Why we haven't done that in the past is because the structuring on that tax rate has been so tight, we haven't been able to do that and hit your tax rate targets. In this case, this is a relatively small issue for Belton ISD. Nothing too small, obviously, but it's under 20 million, which is a little bit unusual for you guys recently. And because we're in a position where we are lowering that tax rate, we're not worried about having a bump up in the tax rate. We know it's going to keep coming down, so we don't have to hit those tax rate targets so tightly. There haven't been, the tax bill that was passed last year took away, as I know Mr. Pittenger had kind of mentioned as well, but it took away your ability to advance, refund, or refinance your existing bonds. It did that to all issuers across the country, and what happened was that took away about 50% of the municipal bond market. So buyers are hungry to buy bonds. So I think that by selling competitively, we're going to get a lot of bids because there's just not a lot of bonds out there in the market. The other thing is that we're timing this so that we come out ahead of the May bond elections. I've got 2 other districts tonight calling bond elections. We expect there to be a lot of activity in terms of May bond elections. We're positioning you with this timetable to be ahead of all of those, so the Belton ISD gets the most attention. So just to kind of wrap that up, with the competitive sale, I think it will make the most sense. I think we will get a lot of bids, and I think we will get the lowest interest rate. And we're still going to preserve the ability within our bid specs to be able to move maturities around and kind of make it pretty in terms of the tax rate, so don't worry about that too much. Our second goal here is to structure the debt to allow for future bond elections. I know there's nothing on the table right now that you're considering, but you're a fast growth district. We don't want to lock you up in some sort of position where the tax rate's close to 50 cents and you can't borrow again for the next 20 years. We want to make sure that we allow you in the future, should growth be there and you need to go out and build new schools, that we give you the ability to kind of lower that tax rate and grow into a future bond election should the need be there. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the structure as well. But one way that we're doing that, when we originally projected this bond issue, we were assuming the 30-year bond issue, meaning it would pay back over a period of 30 years like a mortgage. Because the tax rate targets have been lower than what we anticipated, interest rates are a little bit lower than what we've anticipated, and your tax-based growth has been higher than what we anticipated, We're actually able to shorten that from a 30-year term to a 21-year term. If we can get it to 20 years, we'll do that. We'd like to be even there, and not at 21, but 20. But right now, with our interest rate projections, we're assuming 21 years. But by doing that, we're actually dropping the interest rate, projected, of course, we haven't sold these yet, but we're dropping the interest rate from a 3.8% to a 3.5%, and we're projecting that will save almost $3 million in interest costs by shortening that. So that's going to create future capacity going forward. We're going to be paying off principal faster than we would have been otherwise, and the quicker we pay that principal off, it allows for more principal to come on when you need it for new schools. And then goal number 3, with our timing, is to maximize state funding. So we're in a legislative year, and what that means, you've always been good about selling in the odd years, because when we're in an odd year, if we can sell and have a payment prior to August 31, which is your fiscal year end, as well as the state's fiscal year end, if we're able to sell and have a payment prior to August 31 of the fiscal year end 19, we will then immediately qualify for state assistance on the new bond issue. So that means that existing debt allotment that you're getting, assuming the legislature keeps funding those programs, you will immediately qualify for that. So we're not going to have a bump in tax rate and then the next biennium it goes down when that comes on board. So we're structuring this issue to close in time to allow you to have a payment prior to 8/31. So even with all of these shortening of the term, being a little bit conservative still in our interest rate, we're projecting that you can drop your INS or your debt tax rate from 43.3 cents, where it currently is, to 41 cents next year. We're going off now an estimate in terms of tax base growth. You've grown at about 8% the last 4 years. And we've usually been really conservative, but since we're getting close to the sale, we don't want to be incredibly conservative. So we're assuming a 7.5% growth. By the time it actually comes to sale, we'll at least have your preliminary roll, and we can tighten that up a bit. But that's our goal right now, is to make sure that we can hopefully decrease it. If we can decrease it more, great. That second or third bullet there, the legislature could impact tax base growth. We don't know what's going to happen, with rollback and other maybe tax caps. This is obviously a caveat by saying with the information that we currently have. And then if after the bond sale, if the tax base growth continues, we got 7.5% assumed this year and then 5% thereafter, again, you're at about 8. But we don't want to say that forever, you'll be at 8. But if it continues at currently where you are, we project that you'll drop to about 39 cents by 2024. And we had been estimating in the bond election in 17 that in 2024 you would be at 45.7 cents. So from a voter perspective, you're delivering the projects on schedule, on time, on budget, as well as much less in terms of tax rate impact than what you told them. So the calendar of events here would be tonight's the kickoff. It's a delegation sale. And just as a reminder what that means, as opposed to a bond sale where we come to you on the day of sale with the bids in hand and say, here's what it is, board, we're asking you to approve that. In this case, with a delegation sale, what we're asking you to do is to give that authority to the superintendent to price on your behalf. What that means then is that we don't have to time our bond sale for when the board's meeting. We can time it for the best day in the market. So it gives us more flexibility. You're large enough in terms of district size to be able to do that. So state law allows you to do it. It makes the most sense financially, so we certainly recommend you doing that. There are parameters within that so that, superintendent can't sign off on anything, and Glenn Opal has those, and he'll tell you what those are. So with that calendar, if you decide to move forward tonight, April 1st is when we'd have the rating agency calls with staff. We'd have the offering document or prospectus out on April 24th, and then we would project to price on May 1, assuming that's a good day in the market. If it's not, we'll pull it and price the best day in the market. But that's the assumed timetable right now. And then you'd have funds on May 29th. And then we would have a payment on August 30, again, to qualify for those state funds for the next 2 fiscal years. So that's all I've got in terms of the presentation that I have. Mr. Opal can talk about the order itself, or I can answer financial questions now or when he's complete.
Yeah, I would just say that we appreciate your strategization. All the things that you just shared with us, the best news is knowing that we're going to lower that tax rate, and it's much lower than we originally projected. So that's great news for the public.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Glenn Opal with Bracewell, the district's bond counsel. As Jennifer has said, the action item that you have on the agenda is the adoption of the bond order. It authorizes the issuance of the bonds, and as Jennifer has said, it is a parameters order. It authorizes those bonds to be issued within certain specified parameters, the maximum interest rate allowed by law, a 40-year maturity, and not to exceed $19,700,000. The superintendent, or in her absence, the chief financial officer, is authorized to execute the sale. It puts the order is the only action that the board will have to take. We'll effect the sale with the signing of a separate pricing certificate that lays out the pricing of the bonds and is one of the documents that goes to the Attorney General's office for approval. Those are the kind of the basics of it. I'm happy to answer any questions about the order or just in general on the bond side.
Thank you for that. Does the board have any questions? Nope, I think we're good. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that. I don't believe we're ready for recognition, so go ahead.
Go to closed session if you want and take care of that, or you could move down for consent.
Okay. I believe the board will go ahead at this time and go into closed session. Texas Government Code subchapters D and E, consultation with attorney, Texas Government Code Section 551.071, and deliberations about real property, Texas Government Code Section 551.072. Okay, we will reconvene in open session and start off with some recognitions. Yes. Elizabeth, will you get us started?
I will. Rachel, do you have? Thank you. So first up, we have national champs in our midst. Go ahead and start welcoming in the seniors from the Belton High School cheerleading team that are national champions after their tremendous win at their first National Cheerleaders Association High School Nationals competition. Preliminary competitions were held on Saturday, January 26th, followed by finals on Sunday. The squad, comprised of 29 students from freshmen to seniors, placed first out of 6 teams in the large intermediate co-ed high school division, receiving a raw score of 97 out of 100. That top score also earned the team the title of Grand Champion of Intermediate Teams, and they were awarded for superior showmanship. Belton High School Cheerleading is sponsored by Ginger Elliott. Can't say how proud our whole community is of these ladies. Again, we have our seniors that competed here with us tonight. Congratulations. We can pause for a second. Parents, did you get all the pictures you need? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you, ladies, for representing us so well. Really appreciate that. Awesome job.
Thank you. And now is the first of 3 all-state fine arts students groups that we'll be recognizing tonight. First is Texas Dance Educators Association All-State Dancer. Belton High School senior and Belton Magic Bells co-captain Amber Coons was selected as an all-state dancer, performing with 250 dancers from across the state in January. In addition to performing, Amber was recognized as one of just 5 scholarship recipients, claiming the top scholarship of $2,500. To be selected as an all-state dancer, the student must be recognized by the team's director, Mrs. Rachel Hill, as being a top leader, an amazing student, and also submit a resume of extracurricular and dance abilities. Congratulations, Amber. Next, all-state recognition. Belton High School senior and marching 100 drum major Sarah Hoffman was selected as a member of the Texas All-State Band playing the clarinet. Sarah will perform alongside the best musicians from across the state as a part of the Texas Music Educators Convention in San Antonio this week. She's headed there. The Belton High School Band is currently directed by Ed Stein. Congratulations, Sarah.
Congratulations.
And last but certainly not least, Belton High School vocalists Kara Fish and Andrew Holcomb and Belton New Tech High School at Wasco's Ian Farrell have been selected as members of the Texas All-State Choirs. Kara, a junior, will be a part of the All-State Mixed Choir for the 2nd year in a row. Again, that's the 2nd year in a row that Kara has made it to All-State. Andrew and Ian, both seniors, will be in the tenor bass choir. All 3 will perform with the best singers in the state and work with world-renowned clinicians throughout the conference, and that occurs later this week. Of over 15,000 students who initially auditioned at the region level, these 3 vocalists are part of just the top 2.5% that become all-state choir members. The BHS choir is directed by Tanya Lavorne and Travis Campbell, and while we have all 3 of them here again, I think it's an additional round of applause for the roles in the Adams family that they all played. This is Morticia, Gomez, and Uncle Fester. Yep. Congratulations, y'all. Thank you.
Good evening. We are excited to recognize Michelle McKeska. She is the Rotary Educator of the Quarter from the Belton Rotary Club. And Michelle's here tonight with her principal, Ms. Connor. And Michelle's intervention teacher at Miller Heights Elementary. She's in her 14th year in education and her 3rd in Belton ISD. Ms. McKeska manages all grade level RTI data and works closely with all grade levels to ensure open communication and collaboration in order to strategically plan for student support. She manages and organizes small group intervention and trains her colleagues and strengthens collaboration and trust. Jennifer Connor, principal at Miller Heights Elementary, stated, Michelle consistently models professionalism, leadership, empathy, and tenacity as she leads her team in RTI, professional development, and in conversations with teachers and families. The Miller Heights family is blessed to have her on our team. Congratulations. And next up, we have Wendy Ingram. She's being recognized as the Teacher of the Month from the Temple Rotary Club. And Wendy serves as a 2nd grade math and science teacher at High Point Elementary. She's in her 19th year in education and her 3rd with us in Belton. Ms. Ingram establishes positive relationships with students, parents, and colleagues. She does this through writing notes of encouragement, maintaining a professional approach to her work, and constantly thinking of others. Wendy has also taken on the role of grade level leader and is thriving in this role. Amy Armstrong, principal at High Point Elementary, stated, Wendy is one of the most genuine, kind people you will meet. I am so thankful that she found her way to Belton when she did. She is truly an asset to our campus. Congratulations, Wendy.
Our final recognition of tonight is our Big Red community partner, the Bell County Expo Center. Belton ISD celebrates the ceremonial beginning and end each school year in one location, the Bell County Expo Center. From convocation to graduation and many events in between, the Expo and its staff play a vital role behind the scenes in ensuring that our staff, students, and larger community can come together to create important and memorable moments. In the last week, the Bell County Expo again hosted the Bell County Youth Fair, Livestock Show, and Rodeo. This year's fair featured nearly 5,400 entries and more than 1,000 exhibitors. Participants, including nearly 100 students from Belton High School, include agriculture classes, 4-H clubs, and many other groups from across the area. In recognition of their invaluable support of Belton ISD staff and students, the Bell County Expo Center is this month's Big Red community partner. Accepting this recognition is Executive Director Tim Stevens. Former Belton ISD board member Tim Stevens, and Assistant Director John Dugan, who makes it all happen for us. Thank you.
Next up, we have public comments. Ms. Connie, do you have anybody that signed up? No? Then we will continue to our next item on the agenda. It's the consent agenda. Does any board member want any item pulled for further discussion? No? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed? Okay, Mr. Norwood. And is there a second? Dr. Montgomery, all approved? That passes unanimously. Next up, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Kincaid.
All right. Well, I am excited to make some announcements this evening, although we made those announcements on Thursday afternoon, but I want to formally do that this evening. And first, I would like to announce that Jill Ross has been selected as the very first principal for our new Lake Belton High School. So, Jill, would you please stand? she is. And she has her family here with her this evening. Would you guys stand as well and be recognized? We appreciate Jill and all the work that she does. Yes. Jill will begin in her new role this fall, even though we won't be opening Lake Belton High School until the fall of 2020. As you can imagine, opening a new comprehensive high school is a tremendous task. She will be busy attending to a long list of details that come with the opening of the new school. And I couldn't list everything, but I will tell you some things. She'll be helping with selecting staff, identifying processes and systems, communicating with students and engaging them in the development of and the identity of the culture of the school, selecting and ordering instructional materials, furniture, and equipment. Can you imagine? Selection of science lab materials, English materials, equipment for shops, the wide variety of furniture that will be in the school, and I could go on and on. So when you think of a high school, unlike an elementary or middle school, it's a much more complex. There'll be some other work that we have to do, like naming the dance team, coming up with a school song, ordering uniforms, and so just lots of decision points. In addition to that, we've asked Jill to assist with the transition of new leadership at Belton High School. So her office will be located at the school. She'll continue to be there, and we fully expect that she will continue to work with the staff and students next year at Belton High School while she's also working to help us open Lake Belton High School. So congratulations to Jill.
Congratulations, Ms. Ross. I know that you're going to do a fantastic job. You're doing an amazing job now, and I know that even though she listed a lot of things that you're going to be doing, I know that you're going to do a great job. So thank you for, taking charge and just leading us to the next millennium. I know you can do a great job.
Thank you. Ben Smith has been named as the principal of Belton High School beginning next year with this transition. Ben has been with us for 12 years. He's been a teacher and a coach at Belton High School. He's been an assistant principal at Lake Belton Middle School and at Belton New Tech High School at Wasco, and then he's been the principal at Belton New Tech High School at Wasco. He's done an excellent job for us. He understands the vision and the culture of our school district, and we are pleased with his work, and we have confidence in his ability to lead at Belton High School. Please join me in congratulating Ben Smith. Would you have your family stand, Ben, as well, and have your parents here this evening? Yeah.
Congratulations, Ben. This is another amazing opportunity. It's awesome in that we already have you here. We already know what you're capable of. So very glad that you've stepped to the plate and you're ready to continue leading us. Thank you.
Right. We trust both of these leaders. A little bittersweet. It's hard to make a change again at Belton High School. Hard to make a change again at New Tech. But we're going to keep moving forward. So that leaves an opening at Belton New Tech High School at Wasco. That position has been posted. Todd's nodding his head, and it's our hope that by posting it now that we will be able to conduct interviews and make a selection early before the end of the school year, certainly, so that our staff and our students are settled and we can continue to provide quality instruction at the school. So congratulations again, Ben. Okay, next I'd like to mention that we have posted the principal's position at North Belton Middle School. As you know, Joe Brown is retiring effective the end of March. We intend to interview candidates for North Belton Middle School in the next couple of weeks, and we hope to make an announcement as soon as possible or bring you a recommendation as soon as possible for the principal of North Belton Middle School. I want to thank Joe for his 35 years of service to public education. 22 of those years were right here in Belton ISD, and I've had the privilege of working with Joe for 19 years. So. Joe raised his girls in our system, and this is his home. He loves Belton ISD, and we appreciate him very much for his work and just want to thank him this evening. So would you stand and be recognized, Joe?
Thank you, Joe, for all of your many years of hard work. Now, at Convocation, you and I, we got this thing about you being my favorite principal because of my son, although I've kind of outgrown that because Dylan is almost a senior, so I'm on a hunt for a new favorite principal, all I'm saying. I'm kidding, everybody. Really?
Something?
Sure.
Hey, I just want to say, Coach, that all three of my kids had the privilege of having you as their principal, and it really did mean the world to my family. I always felt very safe and comfortable. It was a great experience. You did a great job. And I remember as a junior high coach sitting in the defensive meetings when you were our defensive coordinator, and I served under a lot of coaches through the years, and I don't think I ever was around one smarter that could coach defense like you. So been a great asset to our district. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. All right. Okay, just a quick mention of our Public School Week luncheon that's coming up on Thursday, March the 7th. We will be at the McLean Great Hall at UMHB Student Union Building again at the University of Mary Hardin Baylor, and we're really excited about that. We'll have a number of activities that week at our campuses, as we always do, and we will communicate those out to parents in the community as we get closer. I'd like to thank Elizabeth, Robert, Josh, and Becca, in case I forget to do that at the luncheon, because this is really hard work to put together an event of this kind, and they are already working on the details, and I appreciate them very much, so thank you for that. Quick legislative update. Wanted to, tonight, it's still early, so I thought I would point out a few resources for you this evening. First, the Texas Association of School Boards has a Twitter account at TASB News. And what I've discovered that I didn't realize is that they have a program called TASB Talks, which are short little podcasts that they share. And so I wanted to mention one recently with Jimmy Don Aycock regarding the Texas legislature. As you know, he was a former legislator in this area, District 54. And he gave a little podcast recently on state funding and teacher retention. He discussed the trouble the state is having with attracting teachers because of pay. And I just loved his comments. He has such great wisdom. But he said, teaching is a calling, but at some point that calling has to pay the bills. And he said that in order to attract bright young people, the pay has to be better. He mentioned that Texas school funding is 43rd to 45th in the nation, and that if we believe that the future of Texas resides in our kids, then we have to get them educated so that we have a workforce to meet the state's needs. And so I just appreciate Jimmy Don, always have, and his wisdom and straight talk about educational issues. And so I encourage you to follow TASB News, and they'll post plenty of things about the legislative session, I assure you, but the little short podcasts are really nice because you can hear the voices. The other resource I'd like to share is the Texas Tribune. They also have a Twitter account, and that's a good way to stay updated on the work of the Texas legislature. They recently posted a story about the governor's State of the State address, highlighting his messages about schools and taxes. And so his comments, speaking to both chambers of the legislature, he named emergency items, the priorities of school finance reform, teacher pay raises, again, you hear that again, and property tax relief. He also mentioned on his priority list school safety. He said, our mission begins with our students. We must target education funding. That starts with teachers in the classroom. This session, we must pay our teachers more. course, we don't know how to do that yet, and that's going to be the debate in the legislature over the next few months. Abbott mentioned merit-based teacher pay systems such as Dallas ISD's program that puts incentives for effective teachers in schools and classrooms where they're needed the most. That's always a controversial topic when it comes to teacher salary. And then the highest profile teacher pay bill so far came out of the Senate with a pay raise across the board of $5,000 for all Texas teachers. We don't yet know the details of that bill. The House's initial budget proposal puts billions more into school funding, but leaves districts with more flexibility on how to spend it. And then I would mention that the governor did not address pre-K, always a good topic during a legislative session, or lowering the cost of teachers' health care expenses. And then final resource I wanted to remind you about is the forums with State Representative Hugh Shine. Those are for the community. They're held at the Belton Chamber of Commerce and the Temple Chamber of Commerce. This morning there was a session here in Belton, and Connie will continue to send you those calendar invites if you have any interest in attending those sessions with you. So that's it. Any questions for me? All right, thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Calvin Itz will talk to us about the exchange of employee thoughts, feelings, and ideas tool that was used.
Okay, thank you, and good evening again. So with our growth, it's obviously an exciting time in Belton, and so tonight I'm going to share 2 ways that we engaged our employees, and those are through stay interviews and an employee exchange, and I'll walk us through each of those processes as well as some of our findings. So we started the process with stay interviews. Our motivation behind this was to really understand what helps people stay in Belton, what motivates them. Our traditional surveying method is one method of collecting information. Exit surveys are another method. But we wanted to focus on, why are you staying with us? And so part 1, we asked campus principals to identify staff members with 5 or more years of experience with us. So we wanted to talk to employees that had longevity. We did also ask them for a couple of people that have less than 2 years with us, just to kind of get a different perspective. And actually, there was really no difference in their responses. They were pretty consistent, and I'll go through those in a moment. Vicki Dean joined me, and we sat down and interviewed 79 employees from all of our campuses and departments. These were, one-on-one interviews, and we asked them 7 questions. And you can see our average years of experience was about 8.4, and the average years total was 12.2. So the interview started with 3 general questions that were around what motivated our employees, what they look forward to when they come to work each day, what they like most about working with us, and then what keeps them with us. And so this slide captures the most frequently mentioned words to those 3 questions. And by far, the first comment out of many people's mouth were the kids. That was the statement. Many also referenced the family environment in Belton, or the family culture environment at their campus. Other things that were important to them within this area were they talked about their team, their grade level team, their colleagues at their campus, the relationship they have, the culture, and community support was frequently mentioned. The next 3 questions centered around the support that they're provided. What can we do best to support the employees? What can we do more of? And then what's working well that makes their job rewarding? And so again, here's another word cloud that reflects their comments. Most frequent comments were, I feel supported, followed by a discussion of how they valued time, targeted professional development. They really appreciate the fact that our curriculum department includes them in the feedback, the evaluation of the curriculum, as well as the writing of the curriculum each year. They appreciate feedback. Sounds similar to our students. They need feedback. Our staff needs feedback. They appreciate the recognitions. Again, community support came up, and you can see they consistently bring the conversation back to kids. And finally, we closed this interview with kind of a fun, open-ended question. It was, if you had a magic wand, what would you change? And to me, this really gives us a glimpse into what our employees' motivation is, because they answered this in a very unselfish way. The majority of the time, they talked about things they'd love to be able to impact, factors kids face outside of school, environments, nutrition, making sure each kid has the same opportunity, making sure that kids get it instructionally, which I think was just a very proud moment for us to hear their comments in this area. They wish they could have the ability also for smaller class sizes, and you'll see this in a little bit with the exchange as well. This slide, just a couple quotes. I'll read a few. BISD has let me be the teacher I wanted to be and the teacher I thought I could be. I think that speaks highly of things that are working well. And my favorite, I think it needs to be on a t-shirt, the grass ain't always greener, but it's always fertilized over here in Belton. That's a great quote, by the way. All right, and a couple more. Second one from the bottom, this campus makes you feel you are making a difference each day. And then another one of my favorites, we are for children and not just for testing. I loved how they phrased that. So we had some laughs with this experience, but certainly we walked away feeling proud of the people we have working with our children. So the results from the stay interviews, of course, they're quite positive, but we recognize that the majority of these people were targeted individuals that already have longevity with us. And so we wanted to broaden the conversation, open it up even further, and in a safe and transparent method to collect employees' thoughts, ideas, and feedback. And to do this, we used Thought Exchange, which is a web-based program. It has an app. It enables our employees to anonymously submit thoughts, and they get to participate in rating each other's thoughts from 1 to 5, 1 being the least likely they agree with it, 2, 5 being the one they most strongly agree with. And then the thoughts are randomly rotated through so that if you entered a thought on day 1, it's not necessarily going to be seen more than somebody who enters a thought on day 5. So the makeup of this exchange, we opened it on January 29th and closed it February 4th, so we had 7 days for our employees to participate. And we had 893 of our employees participate, which is just over 50% of our staff. So we're really pleased with that participation rate. They submitted 785 thoughts, and remarkably, they submitted over 62,000 ratings to various thoughts. So that's quite a stat. Next slide. Really, I put this in here because it's an opportunity. I want to thank our staff for participating in an authentic way. It helps us understand their perceptions. And our staff had to demonstrate some vulnerability in submitting thoughts, knowing that their colleagues were going to see those thoughts and rate them. So they had to have trust in each other to participate as well. Our staff, I appreciate the fact that they were professional in communicating legitimate concerns. They didn't ask for anything frivolous. And then I want to thank our leaders for their willingness to listen and to be vulnerable as well. So again, this survey was anonymous, but we did want to collect a little bit of information to see if there were some themes that emerged with various groups. And you can see that about 450, 58% of the participants were teachers. And this graph shows us, Thought Exchange allows us to put comments into themes. And so this doesn't represent any ratings. It's just simply the number of comments that we've categorized into various themes. So it's high level, it's all comments. There were a lot of positive comments. That's starting on the left, just positive phrases. We wanted to capture that. And then the areas that were most frequently mentioned were the areas of professional development, staffing, and compensation. The third purple bar from the right is other comments and concerns, and those were comments that may be specific to like a campus or federal holiday comments that maybe we couldn't categorize within one of these limited themes. So the top 10% of themes, these were based on the average rating. So the highest rating, the top 10% of those themes are listed here. It's important for our staff to know that this method of capturing comments and rating, it really shows what is most important to the group as a whole. So just because a comment may be rated low doesn't mean that it's any less important. It just simply means that it wasn't as important to the group. And it may be because the comment that was rated really low may only impact a very small group of employees. So it's just important to know that we're reviewing all thoughts, not just the top 10%. So the first part, what are the things that are working well? These aren't in any particular order, but these are the things that are working well within the top 10%. So these are the top 10% of things that are important to our staff. Appreciation for input. I believe there were 3 comments that were rated highly in the top 78 comments, which is 10%. So our staff appreciated the opportunity to give input. The calendar for 1920 is a celebration in that it has addressed one of the areas that shows up on the back end here in a minute. So that was kind of a quick win. Communication. Our staff appreciates campus weekly newsletters. They appreciate the communication with the community, student recognitions, BISD's social media presence. They also talked a lot about professionalism within communication. You'll see family culture. Culture was commonly referred to during the exchange as well as our stay interviews. Safety. Safety, again, was one of those that had like 3 comments in the top 10%, and all of them were really appreciated. It was really good praise on our safety initiatives. Facilities. We have clean facilities, and our staff recognizes that some facilities that may have some age on them, all facilities are well taken care of by our custodial and grounds teams, and our staff recognizes and appreciates that. They recognize and appreciate leaders who understand their family needs, that life happens, and they understand their leaders, or they appreciate their leaders being flexible when those events arise. And then our staff appreciated each other in showing a student-centered climate. They appreciate working for a district with a great reputation. I will point out, and they care about kids, obviously. Our staff cares about kids. And the funny thing is really they should give themselves credit, because that student-centered environment and that reputation really comes from them. So they need to give themselves credit. And then non-monetary awards, you'll see things on social media. It could be Big Red Heart Awards. It could be campus spotlights. They appreciate those non-monetary recognitions as well. I won't read all of these, but it does give you a glimpse of what the participant sees when they're in thought exchange. And so the middle comment there, I'll read that. It says, school safety and security. I like that we are looking to make improvements because we can always do better. And so it shows the participant that the average rating is 4.2 stars. It shows that there's 92 people who rated that comment, and then the bar graph to the left to the right in each box represents what those 92 people selected. And so the second part to the question, what can we do better? So these were the themes out of that top 10% again that we can do better. Student support, this included support with, they requested support with unique behavioral challenges our staff face and how we can more effectively address discipline concerns to reduce the likelihood of that negative behavior reoccurring in the classroom. Compensation, they requested for reviewing various pay rates at various positions. I would say that paraprofessional pay was brought up the most. And then feedback for affordable benefits. Staffing was frequently requested. I would say the most common reason was smaller class sizes. And they wanted lower counselors to student ratios. And they want more elective teachers. They want more opportunities for kids and options for kids. Additional time, mostly this was surrounded around instructional planning. They wanted time to collaborate with their teams, review instructional materials and resources. Professional development, they want it customized as much as possible. There's a lot of positive feedback on professional development, how it is becoming more and more customizable to their position, and they want more of it. New teacher induction, I would say that was centered more around the various technology platforms like Eduphoria, Schoology, and Skyward. And then federal holidays. They want time off with their family and children, but they also wanted to celebrate the holiday out in their community. What I'll say about these, what stands out to me is there's two things. One, our staff values their family time. And two, they know what they need to best serve our kids. So our staff is on point. And again, just some comments. Top left, this was one about staffing. As the school district continues to grow, so does the workload. More staff and competitive pay will be needed going forward. So you can see great communication and a rationale for their thought. Common thoughts. These were thoughts that echoed both in the stay interviews and the thought exchange. And our staff puts kids first. They're champions and advocates of kids. They understand their purpose, and they want kids to reach their goals, and they want opportunities for kids. Again, they appreciate the work environment, that culture at the campus. And they understand, they're flexible. They get it, that fast growth, there's some challenges with that, but they also need support with those challenges. And then our staff, they want to be the best. They want to grow. They want professional development. They want to be those lifelong learners. And again, they recognize good leadership. And they desire and they deserve competitive pay. And over half of our participants were teachers. So we wanted to touch on teacher turnover for a moment because that's important statewide and nationally. So I'll share some of that with you. The latest TAPER report has Belton ISD's turnover, and this is based on the most recent data, which was 17-18 school year. And we're at 13.6% teacher turnover. State average is 16.6, so that's a good number. Interestingly, the state calculates this as any teacher who's not in a teaching position the following year will count against that number. And so I tell you that to put this in perspective, just to figure out how many of our current people have actually heard us on this number. Well, when you look at professional staff, so a teacher that goes from teacher to counselor or teacher to instructional coach, that counts against this number. And out of our current professional staff, over 50 of them taught in this district. So I think that says a lot about our mentoring and training the next round of leaders. And so we want to continue that. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, the chart on the right is national trends. What that represents is it's high school seniors who are interested in majoring in education. And it starts low and ends lower. It's 4.1% of high school seniors say they want to major in education. And that number over just this 2-year span has dropped to 3.8%. So that's a bit concerning. The bottom left-hand graph is national survey results. They've asked parents, would you like your child to become a teacher? And for the first time in 50 years, more parents are saying no. And so that's concerning. We need to make education and teaching more attractive and more rewarding. So a little bit of data. Some more national survey results. These are not our numbers. I want to stress this, but I think it's important because it correlates perfectly in my eyes with our exchange. I want to focus on that first chart. This is the first bar at the top. This is the reason teachers leave one school to go to another school. The number one reason, 66% say dissatisfaction. When you look deeper into dissatisfaction, 33% cite concerns with administration. On our stay interview side, our numbers, our staff clearly expressed a need and they value strong leaders who care about them personally, those relationships. In the national results, 29% cite a lack of influence in decision-making. Again, on our end, when we did the exchange, our staff wants to be involved in that process. They want to give input. Back to the national survey results, 27% cite a lack of school conditions, facilities, and resources. And our staff values that positive culture. They appreciate our facilities. They want meaningful training and those resources. And then finally, that second bar to the bottom says financial concerns. Just over a quarter of teachers say they leave a school due to financial reasons. So again, it's important to have competitive pay. So staff input has reinforced the work that's already been taking place in Belton and the work that's still needed. We're looking forward to learning more and diving deeper into these themes with our campus and department leaders to identify more focus areas. So you'll likely see smaller exchanges at the campuses or departments that want to dig a little bit deeper into the results. And then we foresee that these topics, we foresee seeing those within strategies and activities in our campus and district improvement plans. And then just, again, I want to acknowledge our staff. And just speaking personally, when I was on a campus, the best ideas of activities or strategies typically came from a staff member through a conversation. And finally, just want to end with, we have this reputation for excellence. We have a reputation for taking care of kids, and that didn't happen by accident. It takes great people in all of our positions who care about kids, and our goal is to continue that tradition. Okay.
Well, thank you for that.
First off, I just want to thank our leaders, our superintendent and our administrative staff and everybody who submitted to this. It took a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability to do this, and great leaders are willing to listen to advice or direction or just new ideas, and even if they're uncomfortable, that takes a really good leader and a really strong staff, and we really appreciate your willingness and your courage to do that. Speaks very highly of who we are as a district. Thank you.
I would just echo what Ms. Lee just said, but I would also put on there that, it's great insight, the things that you all did with the stay interviews and the thought exchange, to reach back out to the staff to find out what their needs are directly. That's amazing, because that's how we're going to get better, right? If we continue to find out exactly from root cause what's needed, that's the only way we can get better, by that, keeping that door of communication open. So thank you all for doing that.
Yeah, I think, the idea was to listen and to see what the patterns were, and to use what we learned to do something meaningful to help our teachers. Teaching is a really hard job, and it's gotten harder. And Calvin's national data there on salaries, I noticed, was 2012, 2013 from that research that was done. But our state cut our budget in 2011, and times have been harder for teachers and in terms of salary. And so we want to honor them and improve where we can improve to make working conditions the best that they can be. And so I think there are some areas there that we need to dig deeper in, so thus that root cause, just really identify what is the problem before we can solve it. So we do want some additional feedback, and we'll be talking to our principals and department heads about how to kind of get to the heart of what we can do to help our teachers. But it was a good exercise. It was a little daunting, but But it was, I very much appreciated the feedback. It was, and the professionalism of the staff. We asked that they be professional, they give us good feedback, but do it in a professional way, and they did so. And so we have a good list of things that we're proud of, and we have a good list of things we need to work on. And I was very appreciative for both sides of that. So, and thank you, Calvin, for leading in this area.
Real quick, just as being a former educator and kind of being close to another educator that every morning I get to give her a kiss goodbye sometimes, this meant a lot to the teachers. I walked through the living room the other day, and she was on her computer, which is not unusual. She works all the time. But I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "This thought exchange thing." And so I sat down and we started looking through there. And it was fun to watch because her idea ended up being in the top 10 when it was all said and done. And it meant a lot. And I heard the conversation between her and others. And that meant a lot to me. And when we got to see the data the other day, Thursday, we started looking at some of this stuff. And I saw the retention level of Belton. That made me proud. Yeah, it's not perfect, and we do have issues, and we have hotspot areas where we really do need to shore some things up. But I was so proud to say, wow, our teachers are staying and sticking with this concept and this vision that our district has. That meant a lot to me. But I just want to let y'all know that when you give the people the opportunity to do this, it means a lot. But I think what'll happen more is maybe if there's a way for us to track down the road so they'll see the results from their honesty and their vulnerability, that's when you're really going to hit a home run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you definitely want to acknowledge and validate them and demonstrate that you did listen, right? Because that's the ultimate outcome. I wanted to mention, too, the things that they brought up as areas that things we can do better on that slide. Some of those are issues that we're facing because of the fast growth of our school district, the class sizes, and some of them are issues that are common to the profession too. Class size has been an issue for us for several years as we've grown and tried to add staff to keep up with the growth of the school district, and while trying to bring class sizes down where we can. And that's an area that I think we will continue to struggle with, especially as we open the next 3 schools, because we'll be adding a significant number of staff members, and we'll be stretched as we do that. So we'll be mindful of that, but we want to acknowledge to our teachers that we are high. And the data shows that we are higher than some other school districts. And so we want to validate their feelings about that. And we may not be able to fix everything that's a concern, but we definitely want them to know that we hear them.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Calvin. Okay, next up, we're going to review and discuss campus cultures. And Dr. Rochelle Warren is going to give us that update. Welcome.
Good evening. Tonight, our spotlight shines on Lakewood Elementary, and we are going to see, again, by the numbers, what they look like, one of our larger campuses. They look at this goal, this district goal of creating supportive campus cultures with the intent to educate the whole child and ensure that everyone feels valued, respected, and appreciative of individual differences. So they take this on in part through the use of No Place for Hate, which they've been involved in since 2014. And before I got here in this capacity, they were actually one of the first campuses I got to celebrate as an ADL employee. So that was my introduction to Belton ISD. So they've been grounded in the idea that intentionally investing in creating a safe, respectful, inclusive environment was appropriate work for their students to be engaged in, not just something that the adults on campus were doing. the, oh, thank you. So what you see on the left is an activity called Start with Hello. And so students were given the opportunity to practice interacting with each other. And the whole goal really is to make sure that students felt included. We take it for granted, but not everyone knows that how to start a conversation, or that someone who may be taking a step back is really interested in being included, but doesn't necessarily know how to connect with others. And so this was a way for students to actually practice that and think, to be aware of the fact that they have an opportunity to connect with their peers and to make them feel welcome to the campus. On the right is a copy of that No Place for Hate pledge, which at this point, we're getting close to the point where y'all might actually be able to recite it because it keeps coming up. The other thing that they were really aware of is that although they were benefiting from No Place for Hate, they still had room to work. And that led to a couple of different things, which we'll go through, but daily SEL time, restorative circles, school-wide community service projects, and a continued ongoing work with their service club. And so those smiling faces there are some of the examples of the work that the campus engaged in, facilitated by the service club. And so allowing the entire campus to give to their community and not just have that be the work of a small group of students. Daily SEL time, which is facilitated by the instructional staff, coordinated by the counselor on campus, has allowed their students to empathize with others in a variety of situations. This ability to see things from another person's perspective and sympathize with another's emotions plays a really important role in their social lives and is actually the basis for our district-wide effort. That's one of those skills that we know can be taught, and our students can have an opportunity to practice that. And this is one of the ways that Lakewood Elementary is doing that. And so what they're looking for overall as a campus is to ensure that all of staff and students really understand how to manage their emotions. They're able to set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. And as ambitious as that sounds, it's efforts like this that actually allow them to achieve that on a daily basis. So that's our spotlight for this month.
On the campuses that you've already or previously spotlighted, you ever go back and just kind of check with them to see if the things that were implemented are still working or need to be tweaked, or do you do any of that?
I do. It's nice to be able to continue talking to folks. And what I've found to be true is that these spotlights have really allowed folks to feel seen in things that they've been doing for a while in the district are now getting a little extra attention. And so I actually don't have to initiate a visit or a conversation. Folks are very happy to send me an email or a text and say, hey, here's this thing that we're doing, and what do you think about that? And so there are just some phenomenal things happening where our staff members are paying attention to the fact that academics are, of course, our objective, but the path to successful academics is really paying attention to the well-being and the social ability and the emotional status of our students. So I have one of the best jobs in the district because all of the conversations are happy, or they're going to have a happy ending. So it's a really good time to be in Belton ISD.
So
Thank you.
on the Lakewood campus, now have we started a new thing, a new program there that maybe could be highlighted possibly?
Well, what you see, the daily SEL time, those pictures are how Lakewood Elementary is doing it. But all of our campuses are embedding this into what they're doing, and our focus group is actually working on providing additional resources to make it easier for them to do that. Is there a program in particular that?
I think they're referring to the therapy dog that's been visiting the campus, so they're exploring that. After we had some therapy dog visits with the Miller Heights incident, tragedy, not incident, but we've had a special dog visiting at Lakewood Elementary too as a guest,
Yeah, after the response to the crisis at Miller Heights, all of our elementary counselors were really excited about the multiple ways that those therapy dogs could benefit their campuses. So it's a comfort in a trying time, but they're also a way for our students to practice empathy in a different way. You don't always need a human on the other side of an empathy exercise, and sometimes it's easier to calm and focus and be still when you're in the presence of an animal. And these dogs were very well trained and really able to allow our students to connect in a way that the benefits lasted long after the dog visit. So yes, all of our counselors are kind of chomping at the bit to make those dogs a part of their regular offering.
Well, thank you, Dr. Warren, for that update. Okay, next up, Ms. Jennifer Lamb will give us an update and discuss the budget process.
You could drop your dog off on the schools this year.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Board President Jordan, board members, Dr. Kincannon. I wanted to take a few minutes tonight to provide a brief overview of our budget process this year. We've already begun conducting our budget meetings with campuses and department leaders, and we look forward to continuing that throughout this month and maybe some into next month. I wanted to provide a brief overview of the Business Services Department. I have a great team that is comprised of a Director of Finance, Carrie Pridemore, and I think Carrie's here tonight. Thanks, Carrie. A Payroll Manager, Claudia Alba, Director of Purchasing, Tammy Shannon, Director of School Nutrition, Rob Pashasnick, and Director of Federal Programs, Celia Ray. And our executive, or my executive assistant, Ebony Ortiz. She does a great job in supporting all of us, and just to everyone in the business office. We are very, very fortunate to be here at Belton ISD during this time and helping to support the growth that we are experiencing. I thought I'd provide some information about the budget process. The budget process is really fluid. And it's always in place. It's always happening. Planning for the future is at the forefront always. That's what we are constantly doing. We're setting goals and we determine what we need to achieve them. So that's the planning piece. And then we prepare to meet those objectives by effectively allocating the resources that we have here in the district to support the programs and initiatives that are put into place and that we need to allow our children to succeed and the district to progress. And then the evaluation piece is really important because we have to monitor how our funds are utilized in order to determine what, if any, changes need to be made and how we are spending our dollars. But this step in the budget process, the evaluation piece, is certainly ongoing, and it goes hand in hand with the planning and preparation of the budget process. So as you can see, there's really not a beginning or an end to the budget process because we are constantly in that cycle. In the budget process, there are distinct roles and responsibilities of administrators and you as board members in order to keep the budget process intact. As your CFO or Chief Financial Officer, it's my duty to develop reliable revenue projections that can be used to create the district expenditure budget. And as superintendent, Dr. Kincannon is charged with reviewing the proposed budget and making sure that resources are prioritized to meet the district's goals, and then submitting the budget to you for approval. And as board members, your responsibility is to review and adopt the budget and to set the tax rate. There are some legal requirements that must be adhered to in the budget process. These are just a few of those. So as I mentioned previously, that the superintendent is responsible for ensuring the budget is prepared, but the budget also must be prepared on or before August 20th for us, since we're in August 31st fiscal year end. And that it's August 20th because there is a rule that we have to post it in the paper, the budget, proposed budget. We have to post it in the paper and on the website 10 days before the budget is adopted. So that hence is the 10 days before that will allow that 10 days for the posting. Also, a board meeting must be called and a public hearing conducted to allow input by community members into the budget. The BISD budget is developed keeping in mind that there are priorities set forth that we want to make sure that we are addressing. These priorities are in line with the district improvement plan, and they're focused on supporting academics and digital learning while providing staff to meet the district's fast growth needs. And you're going to hear a lot about fast growth because that's where we are at this point in time. And we also want to maintain a comparable compensation package and address our facility needs while we're in the budgeting process. So as you can see with our budget calendar, we are well into the budget season, as I like to call it. We've already developed our initial projections, and I think you got a look at that last week. And as I mentioned earlier, we're meeting with budget managers, and we're looking forward to evaluating their requests. So in our meetings, we're getting requests that we're calling above allocation, and we will monitor those and we will vet those depending on where we end up with our budget. So we are also anxiously awaiting our preliminary property tax values as well as our certified values that will come in July. And before you know it, it will be August, and it will be time to adopt the budget and set our tax rate for the next year. So do you have any questions?
You have a question?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the question. You let me know if that's okay to ask this or not. So we're talking about budgeting. How has the budget been impacted by the shutdown, like the government shutdown? Did we see any impacts from that? Is that an okay question for me to ask? Okay.
Absolutely.
We did not see any direct impacts, but we were preparing for a possible impact to our food nutrition program for the National School Lunch and Breakfast programs. We had received some communication from the Texas Department of Agriculture with some dates that were set forth in terms of how long funding would be available to support those programs. So we were preparing for that. But with our National School Lunch and Breakfast programs, we are in a really good position with our school nutrition budget because we do have some dollars that we can use from our fund balance that would sustain us throughout at least through the end of the fiscal year.
So our food service has their own fund balance, so the district doesn't supplement our food service budget, which is somewhat unusual. Sometimes districts
Yes.
have to help the food service department to be able to function and make budget. In our district, we don't have to do that, but we might have had to had the shutdown continued.
Yeah, right. So if there were to be a second hypothetical shutdown, I don't know, right? I mean, does the picture change? I mean,
Yeah, possibly,
Yeah.
for sure.
It could, but again, the information that we received, it was months out before we would have been financially impacted.
We had some savings to carry us forward a little bit.
Okay. Any further questions for Ms. Jennifer? Sure.
The revenue estimates, you can't do the revenue estimates until July, is that right?
We do preliminary estimates. We have already done those for the next year, but we won't know what we call near or final until we get our certified values.
And right now, I mean, you've done some pretty conservative estimates.
Yes,
All right.
yes. Based on historical information.
Right.
We've taken some historical trends and looked at those and tried to project what we believe will be our revenue.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
So we use our reports from our demographers to identify ADA and number of students and what percentage of enrollment and attendance we might have. We look at our projected increase in property tax value, so we won't know for sure until we get certified values what the real number is, but Jennifer can make some projections based on historical data. We have to make projections based on numbers of kids in programs. We get special weighted funding for kids in some programs, and there's some other assumptions in the budget. So it is a projection. It is your best guess based on historical data and what you know to be happening. Now, what's important this go around, this budget cycle, is that it's a legislative session, and so we don't know what will change with the legislature. We don't know if new instructional facilities allotment money will be funded again by the legislature, or how much money they will fund. So whether or not we would get the $1,000 per student for each student enrolled in a new school. So there are a lot of unknowns, unknown variables. Our timing of our budget adoption is pretty is good for us during a legislative session, because if the legislature does do something with salaries, we have time to adapt by the from the end of the session to the time that we adopt new salaries, and figure that out. But that'll be that'll be interesting for Todd as he brings forth salary recommendations, because we don't know the impact yet of the conversations in the state with teacher pay raises. So there are really a lot of unknowns, and we have to make projections based on what we do know, what we think might happen. Yeah. So it can be pretty tricky.
It's always very interesting during a legislative year, especially given all the conversation that's been around regarding the property tax values and capping and teacher pay raises. So we're constantly looking at that.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is to review and discuss Board Policy Update 112, affecting local policies. First reading. Angela?
Thank you. It looks like there's a lot because there are a lot of local policies listed, but there's really not. It's a lot of cleanup right before the legislative session's about to begin, and for those of you who haven't seen an update after a legislative session, get ready. It's usually well, they're so big they break it up into chunks. Staff has been looking at the proposed changes, and so far I ask everyone to tell us what impact does this policy change have on what we're doing today. And so far, almost everything that I'm getting back is won't have any change, or we had already instituted this change 6 months ago, which is, again, pretty typical for our folks. They're usually on it. The changes to the policy tend to be one of the last things that happen. So unless anybody has any question, we'll continue to look at this for the next month. And at this time, we're probably going to recommend that all of the local policy changes suggested be adopted.
Does the board have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Angela. Okay, the next item on our agenda is consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding approval of superintendent's contract and approval of superintendent's evaluation instrument and 2019 performance goals.
We, as a board, have had the opportunity to evaluate the superintendent's performances and accomplishments of the past year. We also note that when we do that, this exercise is not just to evaluate the superintendent, it also is an evaluation of the board and also as the district as a whole. We view the superintendent's performance goals as district goals. We, as board members, recognize that it's our responsibility to either help or hinder those goals, depending on which way we're swaying here. It is the conclusion of the board that Dr. Kincanna's performance is exceptional, and this reflects the extraordinary teamwork throughout our school district. We are really appreciative and thankful to you and to your team and to all of our administrators for all the great work that you all do. We'll just tell you, Dr. Kincanna, we're just so pleased that you're our superintendent. Before we take any formal action, I'm going to pause right here and let the board make any comments that they wish. And we'll start down here with Chris this side.
Oh, we got the eager beavers right here.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here, but, thank you for being the captain of the ship, but the ship doesn't go forward, right, without an amazing crew. And so, as proud as I am to have you, with the ship, I think, the entire crew really deserves a hearty thank you. We couldn't get it without you. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you as well. I have loved watching how you analyze a problem and then how you put that into action. And part of that, no doubt, has been your ability to create a staff that can work so wonderfully with you. We know that you put in endless hours as a team, and we are just very, very appreciative of it. But I really love watching how you take a problem and make it workable. Thank you, Rosie. Yeah.
I'll say something a little different here. First, how much we do appreciate what you do. And then this is from the community as a whole. We are very blessed to have Dr. Kincanna. We have an unbelievable superintendent. I think all of you know that. The school shows that. Certainly all the principals, the admin, y'all know. But what you may not know is how rare it is for someone like Dr. Kincanna to be in a school system as long as she has been here. The average then there's very few who compare to Dr. Kincanna, but the average for someone like her would be about 4 years. And when you have the stability that she brings to this school, it brings so much more than we realize. And we see it when we meet with all these other schools that are constantly struggling with new administration and how are we going, how is the staff going to react, because it's changing every so often. So thank you for the great job you do. Thank you for staying with Belton all these years, and we just greatly appreciate you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
So the word that I have thought of so many times ever since I came on the board and have gotten to know so many of the administrative staff and gotten to know Dr. Kincanna even more is just thoughtful. Like, you think everything through in light of what is the best decision here that will be not only the most professional thing to do, but the best thing for our kids ultimately. That is always the forefront in your mind. And it's so thoughtful and it's so professional, and it's a team that works together as one. And so I've not met a single administrator on any of the staff that I think, this one, no. I think you're all amazing. You're all in it. You're all in sync. And that to me, that comes from the top, but it also comes from amazing, amazing hardworking people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Kincanna, I think that any successful organization starts with its leadership. And I know I tell you do a good job, but you always tell me how much you appreciate your staff. She never wants to take credit for things. She always wants to give credit to her staff. So I want you guys to understand that she does appreciate you very much. And in the few months that I've been on this position and on this side of the fence, I've learned so much, and I see how much work she does for the district and how much she appreciates her staff and how much she puts into her decisions and making decisions that are best for the school district. I think, I want to point one thing out. I think one thing was evident to me in your experience as an administrator was how you handled setting up the new boundaries and the process that you went through, and how early you started the process, and how you really tried to get the public involved and give the public every opportunity to come in and express their thoughts on the new boundaries, because it was going to affect our school district immensely. And I think it was also evident when the new high school, when the decision to build the new high school, because I wasn't on the board then. And then when I saw the process that you put in place and I started to see what you were doing, your experience in that process showed, and your leadership showed in that process. So I want to thank you for that. There's some other things that I could mention, but I just want to say that I want to thank you for being our leader. You know, of course, the board sets policy, but you put things into action. So without a good leader, it doesn't matter what we do, because you take the ball and you roll with it and you make things happen. So we appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Manuel.
Well, even though we started at the other end and everything's already probably been said, there's a lot of other things that can be said, because there's so many good things that goes on in this district. I don't know why, but everywhere I go, I mean, I wear the BISD, you know, like a badge, and people come to me all the time talking about school stuff. And what I've learned over a year and a half is that when I bring a problem that's been brought to me to Susan and her team, I can promise somebody, because I've seen it firsthand, they work it. They go to work and they analyze it. They look at it top to bottom. So I can tell the stakeholders that, yeah, you may not get the answer that you want in the end, but they're gonna do their due diligence on this, and that means the world to me, because I can go out in the community and represent what you guys are doing, and be truthful to the stakeholders, my friends, the people that come to me, and that means a lot. And that comes from, we were in the evaluation the other night, and she said, "I love this place." And that means a lot when you hear your leaders say how much they love something. It's easy to fall in line when you know someone's dedicated to something because of their emotions, not because of a have to or a paycheck. I think that's why people are in education. Yeah. So thank you for that example, and I'm proud to represent what you guys do out in the community.
Great, thank you, Ty. Thank y'all very much. I do love this place, and I appreciate each one of you and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to make a motion that the board extend the superintendent's contract for 1 year, to keep it as a 3-year contract through 2022, and to approve the TASB recommended evaluation instrument and 2019 performance goals as developed by the board and superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norwood, for the second. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. That is approved unanimously. Thank you all so much. Okay, next item on the agenda is issues, concerns for future agenda or administrative reports. Ty, do you have anything? I'll start over here. Chris, do you have anything? Dr. Montgomery? Mr. Norwood?
No, we have the legislative conference coming up.
But we'll add that in future events. That's right.
Wish us luck.
Absolutely. Ms. Lee, do you have anything for future agenda or administrative reports? Mr. Alcozer? Mr. Taggart? All righty. So next item on the agenda would be future events. I will call your attention to, actually, just in a couple of days, tomorrow, the 13th. No, 2 days from now, sorry. Superintendent Scholars at Pittenger Fine Arts Center. And then we have school tours on Friday. Please sign up with County if you haven't already done so. Monday is February the 18th. It's a holiday. It's also my son Dylan's 17th birthday. March 7th, we have public schools luncheon at UMHB. Spring break, it's March 11th through March 15th. And our next regular board meeting won't be until March 25th at 5. So it'll be a very long time before we see each other in this setting. If there's nothing further, we are adjourned. Thank y'all so much.